Hello, I'm speaking to you from outside, and I'm shouting because it's raining and because I'm outside. If I don't want to shout, I'll have to come inside. Hello! This is a video that I make every single month, where I do away with editing or anything too silly. I don't bother with music. All I do is walk around the yard and tell you about the progress of each individual car. That's it. No nonsense. Should I get started? Let's start with this car. Rhiannon. Open up. Good. Thank you. Step inside. Now this is a Rover 45 with some of the project drive stuff on the go. In fact, quite a lot in fact. Those back seats. Look at those back seats there, and remember, because I'll show you Alfie's in a bit, as to what they used to look like. So it is a hatchback 45, 1.6 K series, obviously, with MG straights on. They're quite nice wheels, but do they really belong on a Rover 45? Well, they don't look horrendous or anything, but they do need a jolly good clean up, as does the rest of the car, come to think of it. But there are more important matters at hand with this one, you see. And let me tell you, this is owned by a man called George, who only a few years ago wasn't even a man, but he's a very, very dedicated young chap, and that's why this car is here, because he's no use of it, and he'd like to see it go to an enthusiast. And currently it's in the hand of an enthusiast, me, but I can't keep it, and so I brought it along to fix. And so far I have done the starter motor, and then there was a horrendous clonk on the suspension on the front, and that turned out to be the bush on the upper wishbone that was non-existent. That particular job is now done. I did it with the help of my friend Carl, who came just as I was struggling at the end and kind of helped out quite a bit actually. This is very much a car that I intend on saving properly, but that's only the half of it. You see, the reason this car is actually here is because of its slight misfire that it has sometimes. The starter motor was a problem that we wasn't expecting to have, and the suspension component was one I don't think he realised it had. So it's not finished yet. And worse than that, I have discovered why it sometimes fires on 3 cylinders. Head gasket failure. Oh yes. Come on, key fob. Key fob's not too good on this. It's not the fob actually, it's the battery, isn't it? There we go, thank you. Let me tell you, before I move on, this car is going to get fixed. I'm going to do the head on it, and it may be very much the case that my friend George isn't going to make any money back on it at all, but at least the car will be saved. The next car for us to have a look at today is a silver Rover 25 over there in the corner. And no, it's not my car. This car belongs to somebody called Boatface. He's Tourer. He's 75 Tourer that I had here last month, and I quite admired. It was a nice car, and I took it for its MOT and it passed, so all good there. He was grateful, I think. And then he left this one here for me to possibly do some work when I've got some time. Knowing that I've never got any time, I don't know what he's expecting, because it's been here 2 weeks now and all I've done is get inside it. I'm going to tell you something here. This is what I call a very nice 25. A very nice one indeed. Being as it's, well, it's got some, just some of the project drive differences, but not many. Like the carpet, for example, isn't a proper carpet. It doesn't have a saggy headlining, at least not very much. It has nice leather seats, rather than the not so nice leather seats on that one over there. It has the CVT gearbox, which works well. This car only has 63,000 miles. And if I turn this engine on, you can hear it sounds really lovely and smooth as well. I would like to say that that's it. That's the reason that car is here, because it's nice. But it's also because he's taking his diesel estate away. And now let's walk over to the other end of the yard again, where we find Benny Jazzmags. Benny Jazzmags is still here, as you can see. Hopefully not for much longer though. You see, I have a buyer for this particular car. A buyer that is definitely going to look after the old thing and make sure it lives on a very happy and fruitful life. Which is exactly what Benny's been asking for. He just wants to be loved. And he will be, no doubt about it. But it could be another week. Could be another 2 weeks. I don't know. In the meantime, he's got to live here, safe at Project Nigel headquarters with all of his friends. That's it. Benny doesn't really want to leave, I don't think. But he's going to have to do. No. Yeah, Benny's battery's become a bit weak now. But it's not the battery's weak, it's just been in the yard for too long. Not going anywhere. So I need to use my jump start kit for that. And that I will come to a bit later on in the video, when we introduce the start of giving Captain Mustard gifts. Lock. What next? I'll tell you what's next. Sometimes a whole month can go by with absolutely no progress whatsoever on a particular car. And other times, 2 whole months can go by with absolutely no progress on a particular car whatsoever. And then other times, 3 whole months can go by with absolutely no progress on a car whatsoever. And I think we might be heading for that with this one. Harry Seacombe. Poor Harry Seacombe, the Rover 600, sitting there in exactly the same place with nothing happening to it whatsoever. What a poor little soul you are. I do feel bad about it, but I can't fix it. And so you're going to stay there until somebody buys you. And it is up for sale as a project car. And I do have somebody very interested. But I'm sure this time last month I did mention the same thing. So we'll have to see. There's a chap called David who wants them. Yeah, David. Yeah, that's the one. Unusually though, this next car has quite a bit of attention on one video and from lots of people. It's seen by about 3,000 people, this video, and that didn't have any kind of progress or movement for quite a long time. And here it is, in a different place. It is the Rover Sd1. I wonder if you could tell what it is just by the shape of it. In other words, if you hadn't seen it before and I hadn't told you and you'd not seen the video. Sd1. It is a rather sorry looking car, but it's also a very rare car. It's also not mine. But being not mine didn't stop me from moving it from that other end of the yard a couple of weeks ago and having a good look underneath to see just how bad the corrosion actually is in it. And yeah, it's pretty bad actually. Yeah. It's pretty bad down one side, all the way down one side right into the boot. There's not a great deal there, but the other side doesn't look too bad. So that's something. I also had a go of turning over the engine and I didn't succeed, but I did spray some automatic transmission fluid into the bores and I just haven't got around to trying again. But I will do quite soon, and it would be good news, wouldn't it, if I can get that engine to turn over. In front of the SD1 in its new home is Rhonda. Oh, yeah, Rhonda, which is an MG45 Rover ZS. And here I am, sat in this car another month later, and it still doesn't smell bad. And there's a good reason for that, and that is that there doesn't really appear to be any water ingress anywhere. Plus the sills and everything are all intact. And I know this because I took this car up the top just a couple of weeks back to have a really good look at it, because I have a prospective buyer. That was the plan. But that prospective buyer gave me a deposit on the car. So that means that this car is now spoken for. Spoken for by a man called Brummy Allen. Yep, that's his real name as well. Showed me his driving licence. Underneath the cover here is a red Rover 820, which you can see it's red by the red bits there at the bottom. So it's mostly covered up, but not entirely. This car, I think, has an immobiliser issue, because when you turn the key, all you get is one light, and that's it. Nothing else. Hopefully that will be dealt with soon. And now, before I carry on, I'm going to have a cup of tea. So I have to be in here anyway, so I may as well walk you around some of the stuff and the changes in the hub of this particular operation. Project Nigel headquarters. That's this. It is mostly the same level of disorganisation, but there's some other bits of carpet up at the top of there. My fridge has now been detailed by me. My soldering iron is there and it's been used. There's my cup, which I bleached just the other day. The keyboard has taken up residence in here, so I can play myself an unusual chord whenever I feel like it. Who knows what chord this is? Let's test your musical abilities. Gone. There's my battery. Battery charge. Charging that battery. There's the drill. Still never used that. Still full of bits of carpet everywhere, and my new trolley. And then over here, some wheels. What about these ones, eh? That's another story. The gazebo's been used, I almost forgot about it, and the bike hasn't, which is the biggest disappointment going, because I promised myself I would try and help my achy knees and hips out by doing a lot more cycling. 10 miles a day I decided, 10 miles a day, 300 miles in a month. That was the challenge, and last month I did none at all. New to the yard is this MGTF, which, as you can see, is blue. It has an engine in the back there. And what is this car doing here, I hear you ask? You should ask, because you probably want to know. If you're watching this, maybe you want to know the answer to some questions like that. Well, the answer is it's one of my newer projects, and I've got to say sorry to my friend Jason for something just here, and I will see you soon. But this car doesn't run, and it should do, because it's had the head gasket done on it, and there's no compression at all. Well, and I say none at all. Two of the cylinders have no compression, and the other two not really enough. So there's clearly something a bit amiss with this car. And for the moment, that's all I'm going to tell you. If you want to know more, there's a video on it. Another quick update is going to be Amy, and it's quick because nothing has happened, nothing at all. So little, in fact, there's only one thing that's sold off of this car in the last month, and that's the airbox. Otherwise, it's just taking space up. It's time to crack on and possibly get it properly taken apart. Let's finish off in this corner. The Seat Ibiza, belonging to my friend Carl, is still in the yard, but it runs, it drives, and it's almost ready for an MOT. This one here, Boris Johnson. Again, it's here, and I'd like it not to be here. There is a possibility of Boaty buying this car, even though he doesn't need it, even though he doesn't even like it. He wants it to add to his collection of silver cars, and that's simply it, which is admittedly a rather strange way of doing things. But if you've ever seen this chap, it won't surprise you. And finally at this end we have Frank, which has moved. Yes, it has moved from over there, and it went over there, and now it's back over here, but there instead. And there's a good reason that it's there. The main reason it is here is because not so long back it couldn't be there, because there was 2 trees here and they've both been cut down, meaning that there is more space for cars, and there certainly is a bit more space for cars, so that one can be there. Now, about a week back I thought I'd give this car another go, and I had it running and took it up there. I thought, I'm sure this car's better. I'm sure by just being stood around doing nothing it's made itself better rather miraculously, but it didn't, and it soon started coughing and spluttering once it started to warm up. And at that point I thought, I'll get the brake cleaner out and see if I can find any vacuum leaks or something like that, and I nearly set fire to the thing. That's true. Look, there's transit face, vandalised with the project and Nigel all over it. Still sat in the yard doing nothing, still awaiting some attention from me, still wanting an MOT, and I haven't done anything with it. For one thing, it costs money for an MOT. It's going to cost money for an MOT, which I'm fairly sure it'll just fail, and that's the problem. Last month I mentioned I might just flog transit face on. For the amount of use the thing gets, is it really worthwhile having one? Still haven't entirely made my mind up though. If you see anything different going on here, it's because there is. That is where Nigel is sitting at the moment, but before that, for the previous 2 months, there was actually a Renault Clio. Yeah, a useless Renault Clio that really wasn't going to make it out of the yard alive, and now it's gone. The Renault Clio has a nice engine, and I put the car up for parts and somebody wanted the engine, and I took the engine out. Yeah, I did, and it's still here. Another car new to the yard is this one. Yes, this car. I call this car Auntie Sophie. It is a Rover 820 automatic with a couple of problems. Namely, somebody's stolen the catalytic converter off, that one again, and it doesn't start because the immobilizer's kicked in, and it has no MOT. The plan for this car is to get a replacement catalytic converter and get it MOT, because it's a solid car. It's such a shame these kind of things happen. It has been stood for about 7 years, so it's a bit musty and damp inside. It's got the usual lifting of the dash that 800s always seem to suffer with, and besides that it's not too bad in here. Just had this fixed because that was broken, that wasn't working. That was letting the window down but not back up again, and that's not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to go 2 ways. I would like to demonstrate it not starting, but the battery's in there charging, so it's even less likely to start now than normal. Although I call this car Auntie Sophie, Boaty, who's kind of in a joint project venture thing with me on a couple of things and with this car, has named it Lady Charlotte of Southport, I think. Over here we have Project Alfie, the car that's second in command in the Project Nigel yard. A car so nice that yesterday I started talking about possibly not even keeping it because I think it's too good. That really was only yesterday's video, so if you want to know why I think this car is too good for me to keep, perhaps you should watch that one. But I'm very, very, very much in 2 minds about it. I would sell it, but only to the right person. It'd have to be to someone who I believe can look after it better than I can. It is currently in need of a jolly good wash actually, and a bit of a clean up because it's got rather dirty and just used in here. And not only that, a bit wet because while it was absolutely chucking it down before, I went and left the window open, didn't I? Oh yeah, so by the way, talking about these rear seats, look at those rear seats. There's some detail on those. They're much nicer seats. I've used this car most of the week and just really enjoyed it. Enjoyed having aircon that's really lovely and cold. Well, we might be pretty much at the end of the really hot weather now, so it's not going to be quite as relevant. And it's Friday, and that's why I am going home in Nigel. Now this really is a precious car. This really is a car that can never leave me. Never leave me. Nobody's going to want it anyway, but I do. I want it more than any car. It's not the fastest, and it's not the most comfortable, and it's not the nicest to drive, but it's certainly the most interesting. I'd like to now mention that my battery is quite flat and I've had to plug the phone in order to carry on recording. But that's great because that means I can tell you about Yardcat. Now Yardcat is a cat, probably feral but with a collar, and I've seen Yardcat almost every day. Still not got close though. But the interesting news is that there's been some other Yardcats as well. I've seen a ginger one and a fluffy tortoiseshell, both scurrying away. I was told that this yard did have quite a few feral cats in, so maybe they're still all here. Might also be worthwhile mentioning this, the Top Don JS1200, which I've had given to me as a free gift. And I've tried it out with the condition that I mention what it is and possibly provide a link, which I have done. Now the next thing is, that's a very useful thing for me, but there are other things that are useful for me as well, and anyone out there that can provide some free gifts for me to try out, I'll be more than happy to do so, whether it be a trolley jack, some beer, not really a new fridge because that one will do, anything at all within reason. Let me know, email me. So, going home in Nigel tonight. I don't really have to justify this, but the chances are I'll have to do. The main reason is that Alfie's got almost no petrol left in it. I spent quite a long time in a traffic jam today to prove it. The only thing is, of course, this one's not got much in it either. Time to drive home in the Mascot. Normally I wouldn't finish my video off in the car when it comes to the yard walk around, but in actual fact keep the whole thing in the yard itself. But you know, I can make my videos the way I like. I don't really have to change them. I don't really need a formula just so people can watch them, do I? No, I don't. I'm not going to start doing it. Nigel's had a very interesting month actually. Not only was there the second Project Nigel meetup, which we met up over the top of Blackson Edge, loads and loads of lovely cars up there, and then we had a nice little convoy through a bit of West Yorkshire and back to the yard. It was a fabulous day. But not only that, no, I took Nigel down to Silverstone to go and meet JM on cars, who did a review on my car, and he really liked it, and I really liked that. And I ended up with something like about another 150 subscribers from that one video, so I was very pleased by that, and I'm very pleased that I did. And now it's time to go home. Just to mention, this car really doesn't drive anywhere near as well as Alfie does. But it is quite a lot more fun.